Hello again. At least 6 anti-HS2 activists have spent over a week in a network of tunnels which is near Euston station in a bid to convince the government to scrap the controversial project. Bailiffs are continuing to try and remove the protesters, and one of those in the tunnels is the veteran Newbury environmental activist Dan Hooper, also known, of course, as Swampy, who was the last to emerge from a woodland tunnel during an A30 extension protest back in the 1990s. Well, with us now is Peter Faulding, who runs rescue response company Specialist Group International. He also safely excavated Swampy from his tunnels back in the 90s. Peter, really good to talk to you. I understand that you are warning against a cavalier eviction of these protesters.
Good afternoon, Sam. Yes, I mean, it's just not been planned, this operation. HS2 only found out about the tunnel last Monday. Normally, these operations would take at least 3 or 4 weeks to plan in depth. They've gone in the following morning. They had an eviction planned anyway to remove the trees. That's fair enough. But actually, you need to plan, you need so much equipment to deal with this type of operation. They've gone in unprepared and people's lives are being put at risk.
So how would you safely get them out?
It's a massive operation. You've got to get compressed air pumped down to them, and then you've got to open the main shaft up and shore it down, or create another shaft, which I believe that they've done. But it's actually taken 10 days just to get to the bottom of the main shaft so far. Normally, that would probably be about a 4-day operation.
We were saying in the introduction to you there that your team and you were involved in removing Swampy from those sort of man-made tunnels back in the 90s. How difficult was it to get him out? Because he really didn't want to come, did he?
No, he didn't, and it was an interesting job. It was not, I believe, we were 9 days down that tunnel, and I was in conversation with him. That's the difference between this protest. No one's hardly talking to these people. I was chatting to him. We were giving them tea, coffee all day. And one of the interesting things is they actually dug an 18-foot shaft actually within the tunnel down to a little, what he called a wormhole we lived in. There were 6 occupants in that tunnel. It was a very, very difficult operation. Then straight after that, we had Manchester Airport. Then straight after that, we had the Birmingham Northern Relief Road. It took 4 weeks to get around 80 protesters out from underground at the Manchester Airport runway protests.
And you said you were talking to Swampy back in those days. It might seem a bit of a strange question, but have you stayed in touch with him? Would you know how to talk to him now to try and persuade him to come out?
I chatted to him the other day down the tunnel, because I'm actually on behalf of their legal team as an expert witness. And Daniel contacted me and he just said, you know, good to catch up after all these years, Pete, you know, and we had a good old chat, and they're informing me what's going on each day down the tunnel. And that's where I'm getting some of the concerns from, directly from them. And he won't lie to me. He's a decent guy. He's not actually, he's non-violent. And this is the thing about these protesters down the tunnel. They are not violent people, and they need to be treated properly.
They're digging in, though, aren't they? They've got some 6 weeks worth of food. They're not going to go without some kind of sort of, you can say that they're not violent people, perhaps not a fight, but they're not going to go easily.
They're not going to go easily, and I think they're in for some shocks, the bailiffs. Apparently, they've been working on the lock-on now with laser for 20 hours. He hasn't even had a rest. They've been sitting on him and at the bottom of the shaft, and it's still 20 hours later they're trying to remove his arm, and then he's got his legs chained into the tunnel, so that's all got to be dug out. This is a long, very, very dangerous operation.
Do they know, Peter, that their lives are at risk with the way in which the eviction is currently taking place?
They're fully aware of that. I mean, they're just trying to bring the cause to the forefront, really. But that's I'm not on the protester side. I'm not on HS2s. I'm just in the middle here. But I've been asked to give, on behalf of the legal team, my expert evidence on this. And you know, it's a very, very dangerous task that needs thorough planning.
What does an operation like the one that you would recommend, not the one that the bailiffs are doing, but the one that you would recommend, you're talking about how long it takes and how you have to do painstaking work each step of the way. How much does that cost?
You're looking, this eviction is probably going to cost around the region of £3 or £4 million, I would assume. It's a very, very large cost. That's multi-agency. There's a lot of people here, security, bailiffs, there's a lot of people here. The Manchester Airport eviction, I believe, cost £6 million. The A130 in Essex that I did as well, that cost around £8 million multi-agency fees. It's huge cost to the taxpayer. And also, you've got to get it right. If you don't get it right, it's massive reputational damage to the project. And that's what I'm worried about this project. HS2 are getting a really bad name here. They don't need to. They could have dialogue. It could have been planned a lot better. And it, you know, they said to me, if you were digging us out down here, Pete, it'd be fine. It would make it tough for you, but it would be difficult.
It's not just reputational damage, though, is it, Peter? I mean, if one of those protesters gets injured, or you know that their lives are at risk, you're saying one of them dies or several of them die, then you know that's a pretty big financial liability as well, isn't it?
That's my concern, and with the ground, the lot of rain we've had, they've not got proper air monitoring down there. They need to monitor the atmosphere. They need communications. They need a hardwire communications in case the tunnel collapsed. And whenever we did it, we had a full rescue team on site as well, just in case it went wrong. We marked the ground out above, so with the ground penetrating radar, so we knew exactly where the tunnels were to dig down just in case it all went badly wrong. There's a very high chance that someone's going to get seriously injured here, and also to the bailiffs who are actually going in. This isn't their profession. They're not tunneling specialists, they're bailiffs.
Yeah, and when the Department for Transport is thinking about the costs to all of this, they presumably need to be thinking about that as well.
They need to think about some, you know, serious court legal action after this. And I think, you know, I suggest the Department for Transport looked into the way this has initially been done. It's been a very poorly planned operation.
And the judge did say, didn't he, refused to halt this eviction, but he did say that he wanted the concerns that you were raising to really be properly looked into. How much consultation has there been with you, and how much of what you've had to say has been taken on board?
Well, the judge was very good, actually. He did take all my evidence on board and my experience. He's had my CV. He knows exactly what I've done. HS2 are fighting that in court currently, but there's a lot more evidence being put forward. They've been trying to discredit me, but I've got the CV, I've got all the reference file, and people know me for this as a rescue specialist. So it's hopefully the judge will come on board. I just need to visit that site and check it, and also put some communications to these protesters in case it collapses, and liaise with the London Fire Brigade as well, because I know the intricacies of these tunnels and what it needs to get people out.
Yeah, pretty precarious situation. Fascinating talking to you, Peter. Thank you very much for your time on Sky News.
Thanks very much.
Good luck.
Sam. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you.